Begin today with the Indiana Pacers getting 49 points from their bench and outscoring Oklahoma City 32-18 in the fourth quarter to win last night 116-107 and take a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, who was pretty much shut down in Game 2, had 22 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in Game 3. Wilbon, how do you make sense of what happened last night?
I made sense of it before it happened. I thought that the Pacers were going to win and said so yesterday. And I think that the Pacers have been undervalued all season. And the person I want to give credit to most of all for calling this out and saying this repeatedly is our dear friend Brian Windhorst, who started saying in March and then has said repeatedly, hey, they're a contender hiding in plain sight because they got off to a bad start and they don't have that incandescent star. Well, maybe they do in Halliburton, but he is not on the same page yet in consideration and perception as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But, Tony, they're a complete team. The T.J. McConnell clip we showed at the start, it just completely speaks to who Indiana is. And I'm just going to mention a couple of people here in addition to Halliburton with his 22, 11, and 9. And you got to start there because when he's great, they win. But also Ben Mathurin, Tony, who a lot of teams passed up. Ben Mathurin, yet another one of the young Canadian stars in the world, 27 points. He comes off the bench. I'm familiar with him and follow him because he went to school here in Arizona. And they got guys that come at you in waves just like OKC. And Rick Carlisle knows how to employ them brilliantly. So this is not a surprise to me.
Right. So let me say I got this one completely wrong. You got this one completely right, including saying yesterday that Halliburton would have a good game because, as we know, when he scores more than 20 points, they win almost all the time. I thought, honestly, Mike, that Oklahoma City, after losing Game 1, was going to win 4 games in a row. I believe that. Now I'm not sure that they are going to win the series at all. I'm just going through my notes here. These teams, they use their bench a lot. They're not the Knicks. But when you get 49 points from your bench, that's an almost incredible number, particularly against the best defensive team in the league. You look at this, Mathurin, as you said, had 27. Mike, there's only 2 players in the history of the NBA who came off the bench in a game in the finals and had more points than that. And you mentioned McConnell. McConnell had a tremendous line, an impactful line last night. He had 10 points, 5 assists, and 5 steals in 15 minutes. And I know the tendency for you is to say 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5.
No, this
changed the game when he was in there. You know, I'm still sitting here thinking that Oklahoma City will win, but not if they lose Game 4, they're not going to win. It's just that simple. They're not going to win.
I might disagree with you only in this. I think Indiana's going to win Game 4. I'm not saying that decides the series for me. But, man, you talk about an enormous Game 4 tomorrow night in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Woo. Wilbon, you've been back in Edmonton all year. What are you calling this game?
Pivotal. Mandatory. You're going to win the champ. If you're going to be champions, and it's not even the game number, okay? If this was Game 2, if it was Game 3, if it was Game 5, you can't play like slobs, which is what the Edmonton Oilers did in Game 3, and now they've lost back-to-back games, 2 and 3. But 2 wasn't an embarrassment. It was an overtime loss. It's one of those great Stanley Cup Finals games. Game 3, they played like slobs. All right, there's no other way. We're not going to soft pedal this. So they need to respond. And I'm not just talking about Skinner, who will apparently start in goal after being pulled from Game 3, which is exactly what should have happened. He's back in goal. He's a pro. He's got them this far. McDavid, Draisaitl, but not just them. They lead the way. Nurse, Kane. I don't want to see slob play from the Edmonton Oilers tonight. If you're going to be champs tonight.
There are questions about Skinner, obviously. There are no questions on the other side because the other side is Bobrovsky, who everybody has as one of the top goalies in the game. And he's got something Skinner doesn't have, which is a Stanley Cup ring from last year. But I was told today that Skinner is called the king of Game 4, that in Game 4s in his life, he is 6-0. So they're going to need that. Is it pivotal? they lost game 3. Everybody who loses a game in the playoffs thinks the next game is probably pivotal unless it's a 3-0 situation. I'm sure Oklahoma City looks at game 4 against Indiana and thinks it's pivotal. This is the great joy of the NFL playoffs. Every game is pivotal because it's a best of 1. Like, it's not best of 3. It's best of 1. You know, Mike, they were down 3-0 last year, and they came back to force a game 7. So I don't know that 3-1 is necessarily the worst position that they could be in. But, I mean, I think what you take away from this is Florida, as Edmonton, is a really worthy team and even more experienced in the Stanley Cup Final, don't you think?
Tony, the championship ring validates you, and even to yourself. But you cannot have those stupid penalties Edmonton have. You cannot just be sort of lazy on the forecheck. They know all the stuff they were pathetic at in game 3. They better get it changed.
They have a short history in this Stanley Cup and last year's. They don't score. Edmonton doesn't score a lot in Florida. They don't. Happy time, people. Happy 84th birthday, Marv Albert. Growing up in New York, I listened to Marv call Knicks games and Rangers games. Kids throughout the New York area would imitate Marv's signature yes call that he used in basketball games. Marv's 2 brothers, Al and Steve, were play-by-play guys too. Marv's son Kenny is calling the Stanley Cup Final on TNT and does play-by-play on NFL games. Marv did New York Giants football games on radio. He did Monday Night Football and Super Bowls on radio. Did the NBA games on TNT for a million years, and then he retired at 80. Well, but I think I'll call Marv tonight just to hear his voice.
That is such a flex. It was so cool when cable sports on television expanded, jumped, and you could hear Marv. He didn't just belong in New York anymore. The rest of us got to hear Marv Albert. It was so cool, and still is.
Yeah. Happy anniversary, Dirk Nowitzki. On this day 14 years ago, Nowitzki was named Finals MVP as the Dallas Mavericks closed out the Miami Heat 105-95 in Game 6 for the only title in franchise history. In that series, Nowitzki averaged 26 points and almost 10 rebounds a game. Nowitzki's relationship with the Mavericks has been talked about recently because he wasn't seen much at games since the general manager traded away Luka Doncic, who Nowitzki is close to. But Nowitzki sounded optimistic about Dallas winning the draft lottery, and he has attended WNBA Dallas Wings games and has been complimentary of Paige Beckers.
Way back in like the early 90s, the first time I heard Dirk Nowitzki's name, Charles Barkley's in Europe, I think on a Nike junket. He comes back and he says, hey, boy, there's this big German. He's like 14. He's going to be great. I'm trying to bribe him to go to Auburn. And you're like, Charles, what are you talking about? Big German who's 14? It was Dirk. Charles got it right. And Dirk, you want to talk about the coolest guy in the world? Dirk's on the short list. He is.
Happy trails to another coaching possibility for the New York Knicks. Casey Johnson reports that the Bulls have denied the Knicks permission to talk to Billy Donovan. So add Donovan to a list of employed coaches the Knicks wanted to talk to but can't. And that includes Jason Kidd of the Mavericks, Ime Udoka of the Rockets, Chris Finch of the Timberwolves, and Quinn Snyder of the Hawks. Ian Begley of Sportsnet New York reports that this is all part of the Knicks' plan to see who might be available. Of course, it also could be evidence of no real plan at all.
Yeah, I'll just say amen to that, Tony, and also mention something that really was disturbing for a lot of us. David Greenwood, the great former UCLA star who was drafted by the Chicago Bulls when we didn't win the coin flip and get Irvin Magic Johnson, passed away at 68 years old. But David Greenwood was a pro. And then the Bulls traded him for George Gervin. He only played 1 year with Michael Jordan in Chicago. David Greenwood passing at 68 is just tremendously sad.
Too young. A couple of corrections, and they are both Wilbons, of course. Only 5 teams passed on Benedict Mathurin as he was drafted 6th. And people from Denmark, Mike, are called Danes, not Denmarks. Let's go to the big finish if we could.
You listening to?
Okay. Former Bengals linebacker Jermaine Pratt signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Okay by you?
$4.5 million for a guy who led the Bengals in tackles last season? Yeah. The Bengals' top draft pick, defensive end Shemar Stewart, has left mandatory minicamp due to unusual requests in his contract talks that could impact his guaranteed money. Your thoughts?
Everybody on the Bengals defense, and it was terrible last year, they're walking away. The good ones are walking away. The rookies walking away. Asia Wilson left the Aces, lost to the Sparks with a head injury. Your reaction?
Gets struck in the face, and I hope this is not serious or a concussion. Don't need to lose Asia Wilson for any time ever. Tigers rookie starter Jason Jobe will have season-ending Tommy John. That's a big loss, isn't it?
Yeah, Jackson, 4-1, big loss. It's a plague, Tommy John. Last one, NHL award show is tonight at 6 Eastern. You're intrigued, aren't you?
No, I'd have been intrigued a month ago. 2 months ago, when the NHL and NBA stopped screwing around with the marketing people and announced these things when they're voted on. Stop it.
I love Wilbon. We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knucklehead.
PTI. This team needs defensive help, and those two guys are stars. Hendrickson, of course, currently in the NFL, and Shemar Stewart, when you look at him, a first-round pick, a potential star. Overall, Cincinnati's 36 sacks, tied for 25th in the league last year. They were awful. They need these two guys there in camp. Shefty Hawk, thank you so much. For much more on Stewart, here's Tony and Mike with tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon, what's your reaction to rookie Shemar Stewart leaving Bengals minicamp?
Shake my head. Oh, my goodness. Are we going back in time with the Cincinnati Bengals? A franchise who for about 30 years actually had the team practice, their daily practice, okay, underneath an expressway. I know because I was there. You couldn't believe how the Bengals operated and were accused openly of being cheap and miserly and penny pinching, and they seem to get past this. And the Joe Burrow era, they just went out and spent a bunch of money because Burrow essentially made them with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And you got to keep them together. But then, Tony, on the other hand, in short order, they don't get Hendrickson signed or they don't keep him. He is signed. He's a holdout right now. Their rookie, prize defensive player Stewart, holdout, and they're asking him to do things that nobody ever asked a player, and I wouldn't let him do if I was an agent. And Jermaine Pratt, they get rid of him, and the Raiders snatch him up the next day. So what are we doing if you're the Bengals? It's like they're going back to 1980 under a bridge for practice every day.
Yeah, now my sense of this is, this is not 7-on-7, and it's not flag football. You need a defense, and you need an offense. I love Joe Burrow. I thought he had the greatest college year of all time, and I just love watching him pass. Mike, he threw a 5-touchdown pass game last year and lost it. He threw a 4-touchdown pass game last year and lost it because they don't have any defense. And now they're two of their defensive players, certainly one who was a big star, Hendrickson, he's unhappy, right? Another one just left, signed with another team, and now this rookie is saying, what are you doing imposing sanctions on me that are not imposed on other people money. In a similar, a similar circumstance? And they seem to be self-destructing. I get it that they gave money to Higgins and Chase. They had to. You want to keep Burrow happy, but there's got to be a way to improve that defense, because if they don't have these players, they're going to score 40 and give up 45. They've done that.
You're not going to make Burrow very happy if you're just losing again and missing the playoffs. Let me just say to wrap it up with this, Tony. We should have a bet, you and I. So who's going to leave his team first? What superstar athlete is going to leave first? Skeens going to leave Pittsburgh, go Barry Bonds on them and go somewhere else? Or Joe Burrow going to wake up and say, I don't want to practice under a bridge like a troll. What are you doing? Get a defense around here. Which one? That's it. We're done. Back to you.